Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we are going to be playing an interesting deck in Mythic and Best of One specifically, but we are reapproaching Lizards. And why is that? Why are we reapproaching a deck that was very popular at the very beginning of rotation to kind of fall off and out of favor? You see it every now and then, but realistically you'll see it like 5 out of every 100 matches. At least for me it's been that way, but it's been doing incredibly well in Best of 3. It actually just won a challenge by the username of this. I do not know how to say it, so I'm not going to because I don't know. But this user took it into a challenge and got first place, going 8-1 with this Lizards deck that is very, very cool. I actually like that. I like a different aggro deck other than just mono red doing well. And this is the list. We'll talk about the sideboard a little bit if you want to take it into Best of 3. But what we are trying to do is our entire deck does revolve around lizards, except for one card being Deep-Cavern Bat. This is the only one in the list if it has a creature type that is not a lizard. So other than that, we're playing Vinelashers to play it early and get pings off the lands to chip in some damage, or to make our Gevs better for free, or make our Mentors a little bit better so we don't necessarily have to attack if our opponent puts a big creature in the way. Or we have Higher Claw, which you'll see today can do some combat tricks that definitely might tilt your opponents, and they'll leave because they forget that it's an ability on the card, and that being the pump ability on the bottom. The other part about this card is very cool, that it only cares about any lizard attacking. So say we don't necessarily have a land or something on turn 3 and we want to play another creature that that cares about damage happening, we can attack with something like a Vinelasher instead of needing that land. And Higher Claw, if it has summoning sickness there, it'll still end up pinging our opponent. Or say a Flamecache Gecko to come down and give us more value. That's very unlikely, like, of a play that we have to make, but it's just something to keep in mind, that Higher Claw does not necessarily have to attack itself to deal that damage. The other thing here is we are on 2 cutdowns and 4 go for the throats, which is pretty typical of what you're going to be running in terms of removal. Removal will be a bit higher in some of your mid-range list, but we're all about being the problem. We want our opponent to try to remove our stuff, and then we only remove big things out of the way, like Shielders or big life gainers or something like that. So we're not necessarily too keen on removing everything, but idealistically, we want to have a Flamecache Gecko on the turns that are really solid whenever we can get a freebie damage in with the Vinelashers or something, or we want to hold on to this to play after we play a Gev against some of these Convoke decks where they're attacking with 1/1s that they turn into 2/1s with like an Immodange Recruiter, because Gev will put 1/1 counters on every creature that enters the battlefield after we've dealt a damage to our opponent. If we cast a Gecko, it does it for free for us, because it says whenever we cast a Gecko, whenever we cast a lizard spell, Gev deals 1 damage to target opponent. So with the Gecko is why I said that. If we have a Gev in play, we can then cast this. This will trigger Gev, pinging our opponent, allowing Gecko to enter as a 3/3, and then give us a black and a red mana to then play like a Mentor, or then play like a Go for the Throat. Sometimes a second copy of Gecko, which is really nice. Or even on turn 3, when we're kind of talking about it that way, sometimes we'll play a Gecko into a Warlock or a Jasper, making them also larger creatures, because we get our mana refunded with this kind of as a Burning Tree Emissary. So other than that, we'll talk about the sideboard a little bit, even though we are playing Best of 1. And the main thing is you'll see it's pretty clean for the most part, and that is whether or not we're going to load up on the Thought-Stalkers in the matches. Those are good, which will be the same matches you probably bring into Duresses. These are going to be your control matches to make sure your stuff's resolving, or Domain for that matter, because you need to get to temporary lockdowns, you need to get to Sunfalls, you need to get the Atraxes out if you can. Obviously, Thought-Stalkers for the Atraction, Duress for everything else. And then we have Deluges for the Convoke matchups. It's 1/1. It doesn't affect our creatures at all, or the Bunnies matchup, which is very nice to have because we'll get their board clear and then we'll attack, which is super nice. More Scales for those targeted mid-range matchups where they really rely heavy on cut down and go for the throats to protect themselves. We can give our creatures indestructible and dodge that at the same time, or even use these against aggro, because with something like a Jasper, even without the counter from Gev, a Scales on it is 6 damage that will gain that life back, and most likely it's going to be big enough to trade off that creature. And finally, when we're against those slow matchups, we have 4 Urbrass Forge in the sideboard to kind of win and grind those out, just like the Boros decks do. And it's also very good against those decks as well, so it's very nice to have these ready. And with that said, we're going to go ahead and hop into the games, see how they go. If you all enjoy my content, please consider subscribing. Truly helps out the channel a ton. Let's go see why Lizards keeps winning. We're lucky enough and we get to go first. Very cool. So our hand's actually pretty solid, especially being on the play. You can argue on the draw we're a little weak. We have 8 1-drops. This kind of counts as a 1-drop, but not like really. Obviously it's 3 mana cheaper with more lizards out, but okay, that Thought-Stalker's still a while away, plus we don't have 3rd land, so it's not like it's guaranteed by any stretch. Now we'll play a Gev. Hopefully Gev lives here. It has the worst type of ward on it, where it still gets like that damage value, but the reason I call it the worst type of ward is like it's always payable. It's not like a ward you have to discard a card or something like that, so it's a little bit weird. Interesting choice. I understand taking the go for the throat. That allows me to play this Fireglass Mentor this turn, and then I'll be able to trigger it post combat and hopefully hit a land. We only play 22 in this deck, so it's not likely that I hit a land here, or it is. I'll grab the Cavern. I will play Cavern, name Lizard, and I will play out the Lasher because it's going to come in as a larger creature thanks to the Gev. Now this Deep-Cavern Bat can't trade anything, and then we have a Shale, which if they pay attention to our mana, it looks like we can't cast it, but we actually can. This is the only thing I was afraid of. However, our damage on board is still impressive and still solid, so it's fine. I will wait to Deep-Cavern Bat to see what we hit off Mentor. This is one of the hard parts about this card. You got to constantly pay attention to it. I'm going to let this land go, though. Unless I feel like I don't need to hold up a spell, which I most likely do. Shielder, Preacher, Ruthless. I do not care about Ruthless. And the only card I care about here is Preacher. The other two they're disconnected from. And then I'll play... I guess I'll play this in case they go for the removal. In terms of the Ruthless, I'll just use it. And I can just throw it on my Deep-Cavern Bat, which can then block their Deep-Cavern Bat so they don't necessarily have attacks. They go for the throat with this in hand? That's wild. Go for the throating a creature when you know I have the protection spell in hand and that it's open is quite the play. Maybe they just like we're doing it as a concession. Alright. Go to this first. I have a 1-drop, 2-drop, 2-drop. Nice. We'll keep here. Keep this for sure. We have a Cavern. Everything's uncounterable. Blue-white land. Ah! I thought we were nuts, chat. Oh, we were nuts. I'll play Vinelasher here, and then I can play a Gev, which damage will happen, but Gev doesn't put a counter on itself. This is the Jeskai Convoke deck, which we can arguably be up. It's like kind of weird. It's not an easy match by any stretch, but not the hardest match either. We have to lead off on Gev instead of the Mentor because Mentor would just lose value. Now next turn I can play Mentor. It'll automatically ping, triggering Gev, growing my Mentor, making a good block, and here comes a Knight, which we have a go for the throat for. Okay. I see this deck so little. Also, by the way, I don't know if anybody's seen the spoilers by any chance. There's not like actual... It's weird. Somebody does writing, like a blog, and they put like names and stuff on it, which is super cool on their blog. This is weird. I don't even think I play this. I think I just play the Thought-Stalker. They put their like name down on a blog, and in that blog they said a card from the new set's going to be called Meat Hook Massacre 2, which might single-handedly be the scariest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Bad. Worse. Kind of answerable. I have to take the Knight, I think. Kind of hold. We'll take a little bit of damage here, but unless they find a Lord, like, we have good blocks. Urbrass Forge, I don't really care, comparatively. Take that trade. Pick one or the other. I get their big creature off the board. I'm able to now use my Go for the Throat for this answer. Let's play Mentor now. Pings for free. Comes in as a 3/2. We move through combat. We do nothing. Vinelasher, Hired Claw. Hired Claw has more upside. Vinelasher has a little bit more, like, can still continue to do damage as the game progresses. Whereas, like, I can hold them back. They don't have to attack to get value, is I guess what I'm trying to say. Now I hit for 2. It's like their War Leader's Call, if you would. I don't know, does Jessica even play that? The enchantment? I'm not sure. Alright, I know my new Go for the Throat target. And if they scry out here and mess up, that's going to be insane. We do have reach because of the Vinelashers. Don't let them trick you. That's a scry. We scrying again. They don't have another white mana either, so it's not like this is flash. They can't flash this in. Sure. Huh? Nothing. Okay. I can look at their hand. I can take their kind of good spell. I can go for the Throat this out of the way and just attack and hope, I guess. I mean, that's what. Even if they play Immodanes, so it's 2, 4, 6, 8. I mean, there's 5 creatures. That's 10. Plus Immodanes, that's 13. And I'm at 20. Feels pretty good. Feels pretty good. I can play this double pink down, but I don't want to play it till after that. So I can just go to combat. This doesn't reach if I attack willy-nilly here. So let's go to combat, see how they choose to block. If I can hold my Go for the Throat and just use the scale, I will. Sure. Scale here. That's gone. They get hit. We go in the second main. Yeah, I will take the Deep-Cavern Bat. Let's pick apart their hand. Done damage, so these Deep-Cavern Bats enters as 2/2s, which is even more helpful. There's a case. So I just take this in case, I guess. I play here, and I put it on Lizard, because that's our better option. To get double shot. You get the double juice. Then I play here, and I take the Lord, I guess. Could take the more creatures, but I think the Lord's just better. Because it puts a bat in the air that I have to deal with. Which, like, of course, mine are 2/2s, so they do indeed, like, get through. But also, I did not count the Urbrass Forge. We were still covered on Urbrass Forge, by the way. This would come up at 4. They would hit us for a ton, but we would swing back for lethal. So, opponent goes first. We have Cut Down or Hired Claw with the Scales into Jasper. I think his hand's fine. We have like kind of removal if that's what we need. We can play a threat if that's what we need. We'll see. Probably bunnies? Yeah. We have to remove that this turn. I don't think we leave it ever. We could have played Higher Claw to see if they want to commit, but if I cut down their recruit, they get a counter on another creature if that's what I allow to happen by doing that. Yeah, this is bigger, but the recruit makes everything much larger, so I think I have to go for it, prioritize removing it. There's a Gev. Gev into Jasper, maybe? Just use their card as our card advantage, or do I Deep-Cavern Bat? I don't have removal. Deep-Cavern Bat's kind of whatever. Well, I can't even Jasper guaranteed, right? Or is it just like play tap land? Well, huh, interesting. I think I go for Deep-Cavern Bat, considering my land will enter tap, and I'll probably have to Gev next turn anyway. Night, guard, hop 2, it's to take. Knights aren't castable even with this creature in play. Okay. Just castable next turn. If I don't find removal. Attacks, sure. Creature gets a little bit larger. Oh, no removal. Okay. One, and that has reach, so I can't even attack. See if they knight me here. Alright, so even if I found removal, knight would still be applicable. Fire off for 2. Miss, smile. Most likely will not. What do we find? Okay. We're playing the Paw Patch. They most likely should. Could play this. That would give me Scales as like a protection spell, I guess. Jasper is good. Could also help me maybe find a land here, so I'm opting for that. They're gonna have to go way wider than us here to beat us. I will attack with this. And a life. Do hit a land, so I'm gonna grab the land. I'm gonna play it, and I'm gonna name Lizard, of course. And we'll play the Hired Claw, which will enter as a larger creature. We'll get a ping in. Hired Claw will enter, and then we'll say go ahead. And we're gonna use this as a combat trick. What is your play? Sure. Large creature, that's for sure. Even Scales isn't really going to help me get rid of that anytime soon. It's going to be a board stall into hopefully Jasper winning the game is kind of where I'm looking into this set. No tokens, so Vank War Guard in there. I think they're deciding whether they're supposed to attack or do another knight. That's one thing I didn't like about the knights in their deck is, or in the bunnies deck in general, is like, you get these awkward turns where it's like, should I not just attack? Or do I need to keep putting stuff on the board? Because it feels so much worse if your knight misses. Now, more often than not, your knight's not going to miss. But they go for 3s. They're looking for the Lord. They have 4 or 8 total copies. There's one of them and another big creature. Will they attack and give me value? They do. Yeah, let's go to blocks. Now, here's the hard part. Except it's not that hard. Okay, never mind. They attacked in a weird way. Okay. Now this is just the block here for free. I thought that was going to get a counter. That's why I was kind of like, oh, that sucks. Then it never got a counter, so it doesn't actually suck that bad. Play a Jasper here. Let's wait until after combat, I guess. Attack here. Gavin on land. Let's just play the land. I think. Actually, I think I want to pump the higher glass more than anything. Not like the land in hand matters too much. This land here matters too much. They're not going to have discard effects. And Jasper's going to flip over their top 4. And we're going to get to play some of their cards. They've hit a lot of lands there. I think they're on 24. So it's likely that one of our 4 will be a land. But it's more likely that we'll actually start hitting some of their spells, which will be nice. Here comes another large creature. Does have trample. What will they do this turn? I'm unsure. 8's a lot. I probably just allow it, and I hope I hit a removal spell off their deck, or like I find something a little interesting. Hired Claw can jump in front of the Vanguard, I guess. I do have another Jasper, but I think Jasper is my way of winning this game. That's 8. A lot of damage. I have enough toughness? No, it actually trades it off. That's tough. I have enough toughness to block it the other way. I don't think I can necessarily give this up. I don't really want to give up my Gev because I saw another one go in the graveyard. I just wear a higher claw mentor jump in front of this and they just get rid of my mentor, I guess. I do this, maybe. I'll lose one of my creatures. It should be the mentor. Most likely, some people will prioritize the higher claw. It's definitely mentor, and then we'll just go for 3 here. Okay. Interesting. Interesting indeed. No reacher. They do have this, and they have a hop to it, so it's not like I have free value here. I could also knight and find creatures and commit more to the board. I can play this and make that creature control get a +1, so I can give my bat 1. I didn't really want to hit the most expensive creatures they had, though. That's the only problem. Is I wanted to hit like the low to the ground creatures. And then my draw was also expensive. I don't know what their last card is. I can choose not to pick any, which then still takes them. But then this is a troublesome sight here. I don't know. Maybe they just won't attack that much. We'll try to absorb, I guess. Yeah. So thankfully we do that choice. But I have the option to play this. I guess I have a lot of toughness this way, so I'm actually okay with doing this. Chump. I think I have enough toughness. Do I have enough toughness? I don't think so, actually. I think I actually have to keep my loose blockers, which is weird. Oh, I missed the pump here. Yeah, that's actually kind of brutal. There's a land. Let's see it. Okay. 1L, right? Yeah. Yeah, and I think the math works out to where I'm probably just dead. But I have to try to trade off as much of this board as I possibly can. So, and that has trample, so I take 1 there. It fully absorbs, but also kills the creature. This can go here. Oh, man, the hop too, it's so good. I have to try to keep this alive, I guess. Doesn't have trample, so a creature jumping in front of it makes sense. I just don't know how I win by trading off everything, you know? Like this kind of has to go here. This has to go here. And then how much damage is that? So 4 tramples over 4, and that's 12, and that's enough. I just don't think I can do it. Yeah, this game's lost. I'm gonna concede. Wow. Just 1 removal spell. I think if I find another one, we can win that game, but I think the Jasper also hit about as bad as it could hit, with it only hitting a 4 and a 5 drop from their deck when they play tons of 1s and 2s. But it is what it is. We'll go first. We have double bat. We have Gev. Maybe Jasper. Go for the third. We have a lot of options here, so definitely keep this hand. Keeps it pretty open. So I'll play Cliffs. Swamp's weird. I think because they could have cut down, I'm going to dodge the Gev for this turn. Look at their hand. Kind of what I figured, so I can figure out what I kind of got to play against. Virtue's kind of annoying. Preacher's annoying. Lily's annoying. It's all annoying. As you can't tell. I can Gev and then I can Hired Claw. So then they're like, when I have to look to play Virtue or the Preacher, which is nice. Just kind of over flood this board, and I think that's the play. Maybe hopefully they don't have anything, but okay, sweet. And now if it's like Lily, I answer it regardless. If it's Preacher, I go for the third it. They go to the Virtue. Okay. Thick card draw. Play it. Hack it. Figures. We're really looking for a land, but I will take a Hired Claw. It just floods the board a bit more. Does a little bit more damage. Gives us a lot more tempting threats. Now this is obviously the most important creature to our opponent. as it's the one that generates value, they opt for Preacher. I have Go for the Throat, so that's very good for us. I will just go ahead and take a damage here. I would like to keep my mana open. Go for the Throat this. Move to combat. We attack. And they give it up. Okay. So, honestly, what that probably means is the rest of their hand's dead. And that Preacher was hopefully there to save them. And they were going to play Liliana. We'd probably get rid of the Higher Claw. I'm not going to invest in it anymore. It's kind of doing its job by attacking and getting damage. This is our value card, and this is the card that kind of triggers our value card. So we're definitely going to keep them around. Very cool. Very cool. Our opponent decides to keep. We kind of talked about our hand already, but I'll do it again. We're definitely keeping because we have Higher Claw, Attack, Gecko, and the Deep-Cavern Bat, and that's a really good, strong start. Siren makes it maybe awkward, but like not really at the same time. Our plan's still the same. We attack by blue-red artifacts, like the ones that like attach onto the maps and whatnot. All Gecko, which is good. Then we'll Deep-Cavern Bat. We'll look in their hands, see what's up. Oh, it's just this guy Convoke. Okay. I'll take the Warden, the only card that works here, because we're hoping to play it in Scry, most likely. And then I can then cut down the Siren, which is nice. Okay. My bad. I'll take everything. Do nothing. They don't even activate here, so it looks like they have the option to flash in their creature, and I think that's what they're doing. Which if they double block something, then they double block something. But we'll play here first. Name Lizard. We'll move to combat. We'll attack. Most likely they're wanting to flash in this creature. Yeah, 'cause why not? Why not rip a reinforcements? Now it's interesting. And the reason it's interesting is because now I just do this and I remove both their creatures. And now their turn hopefully sucks. And now everything works out in my favor. Yeah. I was gonna say, I think you just play those and you pass, brother. I don't think trading that off makes a ton of sense, because then these are like, this card incredibly good when you have a board, incredibly mediocre if you're just playing it and I'm at 21. Maybe not. I don't know. Interesting play. We come away with the win. Very cool. I'm gonna go first. Our hand is like, okay, I don't mind the lands necessarily because we have the best card to kind of help filter. But will we get punished for this? Maybe. We rip a 1-drop? No, but we do rip probably the best card to follow up some of these plays. There's a Mentor. We're against rabbits, clearly. We'll play Deep-Cavern Bat so it can fly. With the only creature we're prioritizing is a Reacher. Hop to it or this. Hop to it. So good. Man. I think, weirdly enough, as good as Hop to it is, I think I have to take this. Because I have to be able to hit my opponent. I understand this is 4, but we're going to have to find removal. You know what I'm saying? But I think in order to keep up with a turn like this, I'm going to have to return a turn as equally as good. So we go to combat. We hit. Then we Gecko, which gets us mana. Then we Gecko again, which gets us mana. And then we just play the Jasper. And now we're going to exile cards from their deck. Most likely they're going to play this guy. And they could put a 1/1 on everything, but then creatures start getting traded off. It gets a little weird. Or they'll draw a second hop to it. You know, like, whatever. Now I could go all out and block that, but I just don't think it's reasonable or applicable. But I think I'm probably dead regardless of what I do. And a Knight. Knight I think has to just do nothing. Although Knight's a good blocker. It's like better to use it as a blocker here than anything else. But I have to answer this Warden. Take a look. So we have to do this and pray for a dead draw, I guess. Here. Combat. I'll just have to get rid of the Knight and Jasper, I guess. Take the 2 creatures I can cast next turn. I'm going to take a ton. Just hopefully it's a dead card. And they concede? You have a 7/7 trampler and you concede? What? I don't know. I feel like they were fine. Like, you're going to attack. I guess I can just... Well, no. Like, if you attack out, I'm kind of obligated to block this. Right? Because this has such high damage. Like, what am I going to do? Take 7 plus 4? Go to... I die. You just attack out. So then I'm forced to block this. And then I take 6. And then... Sure, I have stuff back, but you ever find like another lord, like you just win, I think? I'm not sure. I don't know. I get it. Maybe this was a dead draw and they're just like, they think they might be dead, but... Alright, well, I guess Jasper's also online, but if they attack, it's not online anymore. I don't know. Okay, here we are. We played Lizards in Mythic, actually, which is interesting. Lizards kind of started off very strong. I played it again. Didn't feel as strong kind of the second time around. I felt like a little underwhelming. And then it won a challenge. So challenge doing really well. It went 8-1 in that challenge. Obviously, challenges right now in standard are a little bit weird because it really does, it's really like matchup dependent on what you run into, whether or not your deck will do well. And if Lizards is running into favorable matchups or like slower matchups where caverns are good or something like that, or even like control decks like the Boros control decks, Urbrass Forge is one of the hardest cards for those Boros decks to deal with, or the mono white deck to deal with. Even though they play the card, it's still a hard card for them to answer, so we're locked in on 4 in the sideboard. So definitely able to probably edge those out whenever those matchups matter. And then we got Duresses and stuff in the sideboard. So I do think, as maybe solid as this deck is in, like if you're on the play and you kind of can curve out and do really well, because temporary lockdowns won't necessarily be as like main boarded as they are now, or Brotherhood ends won't be in the main board, so most likely your creatures are going to do a lot more damage in game 1 than they do in maybe best of 1, where you kind of get blown out by certain cards. You'll actually have a little bit more space to breathe in best of 3, but here it did well regardless. I actually had fun playing this. I think the biggest difference between this list and the ones I played in the second one I played in the past, the first one I played, is I actually think this card is the sleeper card of the deck. I think this card is the card that is actually kind of the most important, weirdly enough. Like, you don't want to play 4 because then you don't have threats, and then it's like, what are you doing on your turn? But this card, when you have it and you're just kind of sitting on it against the aggro decks, it oftentimes, whenever you're putting it on like a Gev or like a Laughing Jasper, that's 6 life on a Jasper, that's 5 life on a Gev, or even maybe even more on Jasper if we do have a Gev already in play, and it like pings them with the Jasper coming in. Jasper is like a 5, that goes 6-7 there, and it's got that life link, and so that's a big chunk of life that we're able to gain back. But also not being over prioritizing on the Thought-Stalker and just being like, listen, we don't necessarily have to remove anything from their hand, with as long as we can Deep-Cavern Bat and be aggressive enough, and the Thought-Stalker can just take that kind of one-of spell, whether that's a Sunfall or that temporary lockdown, Brotherhood End kind of thing that we're talking about. As long as it could take those, that's all we need it for. And this deck can have often hot starts, whether it's a Vinelasher into Geckos, into like a Go for the Throat or a Gev or a Fireglass Mentor, things like that, where like sometimes you, in best of 3, I would say slow down. Maybe you'll play a Gev first before you go for the Geckos, because now these Geckos, sure, you took a turn off and you can't attack with them, but then they come in as 3/3s, so they're much more threatening, especially when you're against the Convoke decks. 3 toughness is a lot better than 2 when it comes to them attacking with like Immodange Recruiters and things like that, where your creatures will actually still survive the combat like interaction, which is actually really important. Other than that, I mean, the deck was super fun. I enjoyed it. I do think one of the best parts about this deck, for the most part, I believe, let me separate it before I bury myself in a hole here. Yeah, so the best part about this deck, if you play creature decks already, I would argue that this is a pretty decent budget deck. I don't want to say full budget because there is a lot of rares here, but outside of lands, which lands is kind of always hard to justify. Not necessarily that you shouldn't have the lands. It's more like, it's hard to say like you budget on lands, because most of the time I can be like, I could play a 3 Gevs and add in a third cut down, right? And play like that. Or I can add in another Thought-Stalker over a Gev. But lands, it's pretty hard to play multicolored lands without them. But as you can see, if you want to look, we got the rares and mythics separated. So we actually don't have too many. It's not crazy. Like I played a deck the other day where every single card in the deck was a rare or mythic besides Lightning Helix and another 1-drop spell. Like the entire deck was rares and mythics. So this is a little bit more budget friendly. It's not going to be any more taxing than maybe mono red outside of the lands, of course. But it's definitely fun. I enjoyed it. If you have it, it is still a good deck. It will probably in best of one reside. At best case scenario, you're probably floating around that 52 to 55% win rate. I don't think you're going to be blowing away the win record with Lizards. It's just kind of the meta. Sometimes you'll queue up a day. It's here to hate on aggro. You're playing aggro. It's going to be a bad time. So other than that, if you want to try the best 3 version, it is actually outside of the forges. Everything in the sideboard is also common and uncommon besides 4 or brass forge. So if you all enjoyed the video, I'm glad. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching and goodbye.